With so much glitz and glam around K-pop idols' lives, it's hard to imagine the hardships they went through to get where they are today. But most of the idols that we know and love went through some very hard times, including unsupportive families and financial difficulties. Those financial difficulties sometimes even forced them into homelessness and doing odd jobs to support themselves. Dalshabei's Subin. Dalshabei's former member Subin had a very hard time during her trainee years. When she appeared on MBN's as Miss Back, Subin revealed that she was actually homeless when she was a trainee. During the interview, Subin shared that she had moved to Seoul all by herself at the age of 15 after her parents got divorced. Moving to an entirely different city by herself made her become independent early on when she was in middle school, but there was one problem. She was broke. She had run out of money, so she couldn't pay the rent at the dormitory. She didn't want to ask her mom for allowance either, so she was basically homeless at the time. She said, "I ran out of money to pay the rent at the boarding house, but I felt bad to ask my mom for an allowance, so I stayed at a 24-hour hamburger shop after buying a cup of coffee. I would sleep there, but if I really needed to wash up, I would stay at a sauna." So when she debuted as a member of Dalshabei in 2011, she became the sole breadwinner for her mother and sister. Of course, they were more than thankful for the things Subin did just so they could have easy lives. Subin's mother and sister expressed how grateful they were for Subin helping them out. "We were able to move thanks to Subin. She said she wanted to lessen the burden of paying house rent." Her younger sister also couldn't hide just how grateful she is that Subin supported and allowed her to do all she wanted. She stated, "I feel so thankful towards Subin because she supported her younger siblings' education and allowed us to do everything we want. She played the role of the father figure for her younger siblings." Subin also talked about not affording to rent a studio now that she's a soloist. She revealed that now, as she works in a one-person agency, she runs her studio from home because she lacks the finances to rent a separate studio. She confessed, "I don't have enough money to pay monthly rent for a practice studio, so I set up a studio in my house because of the financial difficulties. It's a one-person agency, so my family probably had difficulties due to all the sounds, but they helped me through it a lot." Her story was honestly heartbreaking, but she built herself up on her own, which is truly admirable. Dongbangshinggi's Yunho. Yunho is now known for being one of the beloved members of the iconic K-pop group Dongbangshinggi, but he has gone through a lot of hardships to get where he is today. He shared the misfortunes he and his family went through during the 1998 Asian financial crisis in multiple interviews. According to Yunho, when he was young, his family went bankrupt and their family worked different jobs to get out of the difficult situation they were facing. His father delivered newspapers and his mother worked in a factory to support the family. Yunho also had to step up and started working to pay off debts and support his sister's education when he was only 12 years old. So in a family with financial difficulties, you could see why Yunho's parents weren't exactly supportive of his dreams to become an idol. However, Yunho decided to follow his dreams anyway. He had to run away from home and went to Seoul to train under SM Entertainment. This rash, but ultimately rewarding decision led to his family cutting him off financially. He worked multiple part-time jobs to provide for himself, but none of them led to him affording a place where he could live. This was before SM provided him and others with a dorm, so he was homeless and sleeping wherever he could, including saunas and the Seoul subway station. He shared, "I had no place to sleep. I put down some newspapers and was sleeping, but someone came and woke me up saying that it was his spot. There's a fight for spaces, and the guy told me to move in a really scary voice." This went on until he met Junsu, who took him in until he could afford his own place. Regardless, Yunho looks up to his father because he had an incredible sense of responsibility. Ultimately, his family actually came around and started supporting his career choices. But they refused to accept Yunho's money and are still working very hard on their own to this day. Parents believe that they shouldn't use their children's money like their own. "Because I felt so sorry about that, I bought them an apartment as a present to them. I also recently traded in my father's old car for a brand new one." Infinite Seongyu. The 1998 Asian financial crisis didn't only affect Yunho's family. Infinite's leader Seongyu shared that his family also went through some similar struggles. His family's business failed and they lost their home, so they had to find a place to live. They moved around Jeonju since they were homeless at the time and settled for staying with some friends. However, the other family weren't too happy about Seongyu's family staying with them. He shared that while he was playing a game with his friend lost and told Seongyu that he should have let him win since Seongyu's family was living with them. This really must have stung. Since Seongyu's family went through such financial troubles, they wanted Seongyu to be a doctor or a lawyer. Basically, they wanted him to have a stable career to support his family. So imagine their shock when Seongyu expressed his desire to become an idol instead. His parents were so against this dream of his that they said that they would rather have him leave their home, which he ultimately did. He moved to Seoul all on his own and supported his idol dream dreams by working several part-time jobs during his trainee years. When cash eventually ran out, he was homeless and had to crash at several friends' places until he went to audition for Woolim Entertainment. Seongyu went to his audition with severe stomach pain and lightly threatened them by saying, "If you don't pick me, you're going to regret it." JYJ's Daejung. Daejung's story is a very unique one and also heartbreaking in many ways. Daejung was actually adopted when he was only 3 years old. If you're surprised that you didn't know about it, don't worry. He also didn't know he had different biological parents until he debuted with Dongbang Shingi. His biological mother explained in a magazine interview that she had no other choice. She said, "My husband lost all his money to a fraud. I used to serve at a restaurant from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. I couldn't take care of Daejung. There weren't extended daycares or kindergartens back in the days, and I had to feed him leftovers from the restaurant. Things were not good." She also explained how she gave him up for adoption. An acquaintance of mine suggested that I give him up for adoption. She had an older brother who had 8 daughters and thought that the family would take great care of Daejung as the youngest son. And the family did take great care of him just as his mother suspected. He was very loved by them and his life generally was good up until he made plans to become a K-pop idol. To follow his dream, he decided to leave his hometown to go to Seoul when he was only 16. But again, moving to an entirely different city when he was so young proved to be very difficult for him as he struggled to pay rent and feed himself. He took different jobs to make a living. He was a background actor in a movie, sold chewing gum at a subway station, and even sold his blood to buy groceries. But he was unable to make ends meet and was basically homeless when he got scouted by SM Entertainment. You could never tell that Daejung had such a difficult time at one point just by looking at him, but I guess this is a lesson to never judge a book by its cover. After School's Kahi. Here's another story of an idol running away or being kicked out of their home because their family wasn't supportive of their dreams to become an idol. Kahi was actually raised by her grandparents. She became very passionate about dancing when she was 16, and this motivated her to become an idol. However, her family wasn't wealthy enough to get her professional lessons, so Kahi did everything herself. She trained herself in singing and dancing when she was in high school, but no matter how hard she worked, her family was strongly against the idea of her becoming an idol. Her father talked her into going to a university in a rural area so she could get a practical job to support the family. She did listen to him at first, but then found out she didn't really want to become a college student. So she decided to rebel against her father and eventually left her hometown to pursue a dancing career. She ran away to Seoul without any support from her parents and without any funds. Since Kahi was broke at this point, she couldn't afford rent and was basically homeless as she spent the night in saunas and couch surfed at multiple friends' places. It was eventually one of these friends that took her to an interview to become a backup dancer. Her audition went really well and kickstarted her career before she debuted as a member of After School in 2009. The stories of how these idols overcome difficult times to follow their dreams and find fame and fortune are honestly very inspiring. It's just sad that they had to endure things like that. Which story surprised you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!